The British hard rock band Queen had reached the late 1980s as one of the biggest stadium acts in the world. They had dominated the charts on both sides of the Atlantic with several studio albums, and some of the decade's most popular songs were Queen hits. Crazy Little Thing Called Love and another one, Bites the Dust, had both topped the Billboard Hot 100. But secretly, Queen was in crisis, as only the band and their closest friends knew. Their magnetic frontman Freddie Mercury, whose incendiary performance at the 1986 Live Aid concert at London's Wembley Arena had gone down in history as one of the most iconic concerts of all time, had retreated from the limelight. Rumors were circulating about his health as a result of press intrusion into the condition of the rock icon as he went about his life in London. Indeed, Mercury had been sick for several years by the time 1990 rolled around, but it was only in November 1991 that he would finally go public with his illness, just hours before his tragic death on November 1991 at the age of 45. Here's how the story unfolded, and how Queen managed to continue despite their loss, and learn to honor Mercury's incredible legacy. Mary Austin inherited the majority of his estate. Freddie Mercury was known for his kindness and generosity, which included countless charitable donations and extravagant gifts for his friends. At the time of his death, his net worth was believed to be in the region of £75 million. In his last will and testament, Mercury left half of his estate to Mary Austin, who he described as his common-law wife. Austin inherited the Kensington mansion they shared together, as well as the majority of his possessions, such as his art collection. The rest was divided among family members, with friends and romantic partners, such as Jim Hutton and Peter Freestone, receiving six-figure cash gifts or property. Though Mercury had many friends and lovers throughout his life, none were as close to him as Austin, who supported him in the early days when he was broke and trying to make it as a rock star. She was at his side to the very end, and was charged with possession of Mercury's ashes after his death. She has never revealed where she scattered them in tribute to her friend, to a very private icon. Fan brought flowers. News of Freddie Mercury's death shook his fan base, especially those living in London where his final moments played out. As fans grappled with their feelings over the tragic loss, Mercury's Kensington home seemed the logical destination for one young man who, in front of the cameras of the world's press, arrived with a bunch of roses that were left on the step of Garden Lodge. He explained, "I've put down to Freddie, one of the greatest rock singers who ever lived," from one of his loyal fans. Before long, Mercury's home became a place of pilgrimage for countless fans who came to pay their respects and offer their condolences. As later news reports showed, the house was soon inundated with flowers and mementos, which from then on became a shrine to his memory. It remains a popular destination for Queen fans who find themselves in London with a British flag stating, "Thanks, Freddie. We just wanted to let you know we were thinking about you." Left outside his former home in 2021, on the 20th anniversary of his death, along with a large photograph of his famous Live Aid performance. Fans were reeling from news of his diagnosis. On November 1991, fans of Freddie Mercury received some terrible news. Their musical hero had been diagnosed as HIV positive and had AIDS, a fatal autoimmune disease caused by HIV. In a statement, the usually private musician informed his fans, following the enormous conjecture in the press over the last 2 weeks, "I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth, and I hope that everyone will join with me, my doctors, and all those worldwide in the fight against this terrible disease. My privacy has always been very special to me, and I am famous for my lack of interviews. Please understand this policy will continue." As Mercury's statement noted, there had been feverish speculation about the singer's condition, with published photographs showing him looking thin and frail. Though knowledge of HIV and AIDS had been growing among the general public for around a decade by the time of Mercury's disclosure, the news was deeply shocking. He was the biggest name to be confirmed as having the disease. And the statement also turned attention to Mercury's sexuality, as he had never publicly confirmed he was gay, but also made no effort to hide it. Mercury was brave in the face of death. Freddie Mercury's longtime personal assistant and friend Peter Freestone claims Mercury was aware that his health was declining in the mid-1980s, which was why he decided to be tested for HIV. However, though Mercury went for the test, when his doctor called to give him his diagnosis, he reportedly avoided speaking to him, afraid that he would get the worst news possible. Treatment for HIV was still in its infancy at the time, unlike today when the condition can be managed with regular medication. To be given such a diagnosis was practically a death sentence, but as his friends and colleagues have made clear, when Mercury became aware of his condition, he showed great resolve. According to Elton John, who was close friends with the Queen singer and who continued to receive gifts from Mercury up until the latter's death, it seemed that Mercury was unafraid of death. Indeed, Mercury's bandmates have confirmed that despite his diagnosis and ailing health, he remained focused on his music. In the documentary, guitarist Brian May explains that after Mercury sat his bandmates down, he explained his condition, but he didn't want to linger on it, and instead planned to dedicate his remaining time to making music as they had always done. For their final work before his death, Mercury shared songwriting credits with his bandmates, which reportedly brought the four men closer than ever before, while they all agreed to remain silent about his condition. He had stopped his medication. Despite Freddie Mercury's diagnosis and his declining health, Queen did manage to return to the studio and continue to write and record music in the years leading up to his death. Some of these works are incredibly moving in retrospect, with full knowledge of Mercury's condition at the time. The Miracle was a defiantly optimistic album which outlined Mercury's vision of the world. Elsewhere in These Are the Days of Our Lives, Mercury offers a sign-off to the world, the famous video of which sees the legendary showman gaze into the eye of the camera to whisper. What has emerged through the testimony of friends including Peter Freestone is the fact that on the 10th of November 1991, almost 2 weeks before his death, Mercury had ceased taking medication. Freestone said, "He made all his arrangements. I think he just felt and knew it was his time. The quality of his life had changed so dramatically, and he was in more pain every day. He was losing his sight. His body became weaker as he suffered mild fits. One day he decided enough was enough and stopped all the medical supplements that were keeping him going. He had his friends around him. Despite his immense fame, Freddie Mercury endeavored to live a private life, especially as his health began to fail him. He made clear his dislike of interviews and of celebrity culture for its own sake, preferring instead to surround himself with people who made him laugh. Freddie Mercury's one-time girlfriend and lifelong friend Mary Austin lived with Mercury at his London home and was with him until the end of his life. The two had met before Mercury's mega-stardom, when the singer was 24 and Austin was 19. Mercury described Austin as the woman who would have been his wife, as well as the love of his life. Indeed, the song Love of My Life was reportedly written about her. Peter Freestone was also present with the assistant's role, transforming into that of nurse in Mercury's final months. Freestone recalls that Mercury was so weak towards the end of his life that a bodyguard had to carry the singer downstairs so that he could view his art collection. Others continued to visit Mercury, including Dave Clark of the Dave Clark 5, who was reportedly at Mercury's bedside when he died.